Velodrome finance is going absolutely bonkers. It's up more than 70% today alone. Let's have a look at what's fueling this rally. Who's buying here? Who's selling here? How is the activity developing? Is this rally potentially going to continue to last? Now we are going to look at the data most people are not considering. We're going to use Dune Analytics. We're going to dive deep into the blockchain data. But first things first. This is the rally I'm talking about. We are currently at 25 cents per Velo token. A gain of 73% today. A gain of 188% this week. This month, we more than 4x'd. And since June of 2022, we went up by more than 6x. And so it's always interesting to see where there's most trading volume because this can give us a hint about data. Coinbase is the main centralized exchange. Afterwards comes OKX and BitCup. We don't see BitCup that often, but have a look at this. There's also Velodrome Finance and Uniswap. So we actually have on-chain data here as well. There are no perpetual futures on any centralized exchanges. That reduces the potential for manipulation. It doesn't rule it out, but at least it reduces that probability. Now on the application, there are some very interesting APIs for providing liquidity. The application is housed on the Optimism chain. But before we dive into this, let's actually see how much momentum there is currently for Optimism. Here are the top blockchains ordered by total value locked. Ethereum is of course at number 1. It grew by 22% in the last month. We've got Solana that more than doubled in total value locked. We've also got Base that outgrew everything else. And then have a look at this. Here's Optimism. It's lagging somewhat behind, right? In the last month, up only 9% in total value locked. Here is that total value locked chart for the Optimism chain over time. Looks like we are close to all-time highs. But here's that same chart measured in Ethereum. So a lot of the total value locked increase on the Optimism chain was simply crypto as a whole going up in prices. It was not more adoption of the chain. So this gives us a bit of a backdrop. So we can put this into perspective. This is the total value locked of Velodrome. First measured in US dollars and here measured in Ethereum. Not necessarily the best news, not necessarily explaining the rally. Here's the same thing in a bit more detail. This is the total value locked based on the different liquidity pools. That's directly from Dune Analytics. So that's dune.com. Here we've got the swap fees, a bit more erratic, tends to be growing somewhat over time, which explains those high APRs when you deposit in those pools. And here's the number of Velo tokens locked over time. So there's not necessarily an increase, a long-term increase in staking. That can also not explain the price increase. So what is it then? What is causing the rally? Let's have a look at the demand. Let's look at retail investors versus whale investors. Who's actually accumulating here? I've built a tool to answer that question. On the left side is the number of wallets that hold at least 4,000 Velo tokens. At the current price, that's a bit over $1,000. That's what I'd consider retail. Those are very long-term charts. They start in June of last year. In the middle, we've got medium-sized retail. That's now a minimum holding of 40,000 tokens or $10,000. On the right, we've got the whales. That's now at least $100,000 worth of the token at current prices. Long-term, all of the wallet cohorts are accumulating. But what happened then in that last month where we more than 4x'd? Here are the same kind of charts, but only looking at the last month. The number of retail investors grew by roughly 15% or so. The number of medium-sized retail grew to a similar degree. So did the number of whale wallets. So there's pretty much broad adoption at similar rates across all wallet cohorts. But still, this is not justifying a 4xing in price when the number of investors are all just going up by 15%, at least on chain. And so I'm wondering if I'm simply missing something here. Is this manipulation or is there some piece of news that I'm missing? If you know why suddenly everybody gets excited about Velodrome despite the potentially not so positive momentum except in the price, then feel free to comment this down below. I want to know all the fundamentals that could be pushing this. I prefer betting on data where everything is transparent on chain. For example, I've bought the Extra token recently. I've announced this in premium. The price is doing quite well since then. And I believe just based on the data that we can see on chain, just based on the statistics, that Extra has a bit more room to grow. So I made a related video on this. Feel free to check it out. It's linked over here. And of course, if this is your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. There's also a free Telegram. Link is down below.